Hello and welcome to today's episode of the Work at Home Rockstar podcast. Excited for today's interview. He's the CEO of NextGen Wealthy, and he helps people by giving people the tools, resources, and information necessary to create wealth in all aspects of life. Very excited to be rocking out today with Jay Dhahan. Hey, Jay, you ready to rock?
Yes, I am. Thank you for
Perfect.
having me.
No problem, man. This is going to be great. So we always start off here on a good note. So tell me a story of success in your business that we can be inspired by.
Absolutely. So success really is defined by living with abundance, freedom, and wealth, especially in my opinion. One of the successes that I have and recently come about to was really seeing that inspiration and empowerment in somebody else, a young mentee that I've been working with. And I started with him when he was 16 years old, and we've been working together for about a year. And to see where his life has now transformed to, traveling the world with me, being kind of my right hand now, and also being able to really go out and create financial freedom for his family, for his family back home in the States. And to see that type of success is what I really vision for the impact and empowerment that NextGen Wealthy has to offer this world.
Love it. And so you deal with young people. That's pretty awesome.
Absolutely. Yeah. Youth is definitely one of my targets because, I really feel in this world, especially in this everlasting changing world, that technology has taken on a lot of toll, especially on these young people. And they really need to learn the right core skill sets that are going to help them actually achieve success, like the communication and interpersonal skills that unfortunately technology is somewhat taking away, just being glued on our phones all the time. But once we get to realize what we can do with it, like this, being on even on a podcast and sharing our message, then we can really create impact and change.
Yeah, right on. And I do, being the father of some teens, it's crazy how fast they learn, like really fast. Dealing with some of my peers, like it can take forever to teach people our age something brand new, but they can learn things very, very quickly. So you're definitely doing some good work out there for sure.
Appreciate that.
Now, okay, so with the good note comes the bad note. So sometimes things don't go as planned. And I'm wondering, is there something that didn't go as planned, some mistake that you made, and something that we can do to recover from it?
In terms of mistake, I will say, one of the value systems that I have now, I didn't have back in the day, and I wish I could have known that at an earlier time to actually save me from quite a lot of different failures in the business world. And I think it was just the understanding of patience. In an everlasting changing world, like I was saying earlier, there's so much stuff out there. So we go ahead and we start to chase the stuff. We chase money and we think money is going to solve our problems. And for many years, I did that. Right. I was just chasing the money and I thought that was going to bring me happiness. And then slowly I started realizing it wasn't even the money. It was actually time. Like time is more valuable. And among my years, even now to this point, I realized even if you have money and time, it still doesn't matter unless you have people. So I think that was the biggest learning curve from the patience that it takes to not only just go for just a quick win, the shiny object that you think is going to bring you all the value. It's about taking the time to actually hone in on your vision and your purpose and work in towards life the way that you want to with that patience.
Yeah. I think that it's even progress that makes people happy. Like working towards something is when you're really excited. As soon as you get it, it's like, yay, okay, now, right? I think that maybe, talks a little bit to what you were just saying, whenever you pick something that you're going after, you're going to be disappointed once you get it.
Exactly. It's like they always say, right? It's not about the destination, it's the journey there.
Yeah, exactly. Right on. So awesome. So now let's talk a little bit about getting fans. So, I mean, in today's social media world, I mean, there's an audience everywhere. It's really not very hard to get in front of people. But the question I always have is, okay, so we're talking to a lot of people, but I have this huge list of people on my Facebook and I put something up there and maybe nobody likes it. How do you get fans from that massive audience?
Absolutely. You know, Especially social media, it's interesting nowadays, right? You're right, because we have access to so many people in so many different ways. But what makes somebody get, 3 million followers or 30,000 likes versus not? And in my perspective, I really think it comes down to the intention of the content that you're putting in, right? Most people are doing content to show something, and that's great. But when you truly find the pure intention of why you are actually releasing that content, as a content creator, I do this every day. I have to look at my audience's benefit and value from it. When you go from your own intention of you wanting to show the lifestyle or to show what you're about or even sharing your message, if it isn't providing value to your audience in some sort of capacity, it's not going to be worth really posting it.
Wow. And that's really good because here's what I've noticed is that sometimes you might have this like really important message you want to put out there and it gets like no traction. And meanwhile, you ask a question or you post about your dog or you post something like that's just very, very mindless. And it just, you get so much interaction. Like, why do you think that causes so much difference?
It goes back to the like my principles of business. When I'm coaching business for my students and my clients, we go through the 3 M's, which is message, methodology, then monetization. And I feel in today's world, a lot of people focus on the second one before the first one. They go to the methodology. Should I start a podcast? Should I get a YouTube channel? Should I do this? And we're always focused on the methodology, which is good. But until you get that message super clear and you know exactly what that message is, and the audience again takes value from it, that's when you can get to the methodology, push the message out, and then the monetization portion where you're either making an impact or you're actually accumulating, clients and deals from it.
So how do you curate that message?
The message is honing in on your own skill set, right? Finding the passion, finding the purpose, finding the belief. I love mentorship personally, and mentorship and coaching really gives me that guidance. I have multiple different coaches for different areas that give me that curve ahead to start to ask myself those questions and discover what is it that I really want and why does that matter to the world.
Well, and that kind of leads to the next topic, really, which is about learning from the best. So, you know, what do you look for when you're looking for someone to mentor you?
The first thing is somebody that has experienced or has gone through something that I desire to do. That's the biggest one. It's hard because nowadays, there is a lot of coaches online. There's a lot of coaches in the world, mentors and people that are wanting to help. Great. But they need a proven track history of being able to achieve something that you want to achieve. That gives you the real right to be able to actually teach that to somebody else. Again, in this coaching world, I see a lot of coaches that are out there and they're coaching you this and they're coaching you that, but they aren't proven testimonials themselves. And I think that it would be the number one thing I look for in any mentor or coach that I would find.
Yeah, I think that's a good point because there's a lot of people that will sort of take a course and then start teaching that course rather than actually doing what it is that's in that course and then showing the results, right?
Correct. Well said.
Okay. And so now how do you like because there's another issue that I find is that the world's changing drastically. And so what might have worked 5 years ago or even 10 years ago, maybe whatever they did won't work now. How do you determine sort of whether you're getting onto a train that's already left the station, so to speak?
That still comes back from judgment again and just where you're at in that exact moment, right? Right now, I think there's a bigger kind of concern, which is the communication side of things. It's how do I go out and actually network and find people? Now that we've hit a pandemic and we've gotten so antisocial, and again, technology is great because we can still do this and we can still digitally connect, but now it's learning how to connect, being there and actually empathetic, actually actively listening in a conversation, being there for somebody, creating real, true, authentic relationships. The more we get to know how to connect with people, the more that we will authentically connect. And that allows us to now nurture those relationships, build them into whether it's a coachee or a coach or a mentor, or even just a friend, any type of relationship. And that's why I always go back to, money, time. It's actually people. People are the most important thing. So the more that you connect, the more you learn, and you'll never really know if one's going to, left the train or not. The point is that that's a chance that you take, and personal development in yourself by learning from others is the most magical part because you just continually level up your skill set.
Yeah, exactly. And you would learn something from that course, even if it was something that wasn't necessarily applicable in today's world. Now, you mentioned, so it sounds to me like you really prefer those sort of one-to-one, get to know a person relationship. Like, what do you think about like group coaching and even taking online courses? What would you say would be is there a benefit to doing that in the first place? And what would you say is the massive benefit to getting someone one-on-one?
So honestly, I'm the biggest believer when it comes to personal development. Over the last decade, I've fortunately been able to spend over millions of dollars on my personal development when it comes to coaches, seminars, webinars, online courses, immersive trainings, anything that I can get my hands on. So I took a very different approach to education than, just your traditional path. And that was knowing that every human being is a teacher. if you ask the right questions to the right people, you'll gain those results, you'll gain those answers. And again, that what, as I mentioned earlier, that's how you continue to keep leveling up. So, getting people involved in personal development, especially in a world nowadays, when we talk about working from home and we talk about, the premise of being remote, using technology, using the internet connection now is one of the most powerful things that we have in our hands. So success really is in our fingertips. Now the only thing missing is the accountability that it takes to own that and do the courses and put the time in, and regardless.
Hi, it's Mark Mawhinney from Natural Born Coaches, and I want to give two very big thumbs up to Tim Melanson and his Creative Crew agency. I have been using them for a long time, and I am 100% happy. They get the job done right, they're fast, and they let me focus on my business. I don't have to worry about anything. So again, I want to give them two very big thumbs up. I have no problem recommending them. I don't give testimonials for everyone because my name is attached to it, but I gladly do so for Tim and the Creative Crew agency. So use them, you won't regret it, and good luck.
Yeah, I agree 100%. There's no excuse. The information's out there. But you're right. The accountability is the piece that's missing. And I have taken like sort of like online courses with, just through someone's academy and stuff like that. And I find that the accountability portion is very difficult. So, having that personal coach, you've got, I mean, you got a meeting with somebody coming up. You better get something done because you don't want to walk into it empty-handed, right?
Exactly. My clients is interesting because we do intention setting at the beginning of the week, and then we do accountability by the end of the week, right? And then they always joke around me. They're like, Jay, you're like a personal trainer for my mind, because it's like I don't want to come in on Friday telling you that I haven't done it, and I do it, and it makes a massive change in my world now, and I'm actually super happy by Friday to show you that I've gotten it done. I was like, the same way as a personal trainer, right? You're gonna show up if he's waiting there for you.
Yeah, you bet. 100%. Cool. Okay, right on. So now what about getting good at what you do and practicing? Like what's your approach to staying on top of things?
Well, comes, of course, they always say practice makes perfect. But at the end of the day, it's training your mind and creating the consistent disciplines and habits that you need in order to achieve success. Whether that's just getting up in the morning. Like if that's there's a time that you set that your alarm clock goes off, or a time that you want to wake up, stay consistent. That consistency is what's going to take to actually create the right patterns inside your mind. And I always talk about, on the neurological side, the basal ganglia, the part of the brain that creates repetition and routine, and to create that routine and making sure that that cycle is going in the full circle is what allows you to truly start to have that accountability to maintain some of this stuff, especially, in this environment of being at home a lot.
Yeah, I agree. That consistency is key. So do you have sort of like trackers? Like what is it that you do to maintain that consistency?
Well, just daily practices, right? Calendar and schedule is number one. We go back to time. You have to measure the 24 hours, the 1,440 minutes, the 86,400 seconds in a day, right? We measure them, and then we have to stay accountable to them. And again, this is one of the hardest things to do, but once you have more systems and structures put in place, you realize it's not necessarily easy, but it is quite simple. Like the steps are quite simple. You just need to, again, create the disciplines. And at the beginning, it's great to have a coach and a mentor that can really be able to provide you that and hold you accountable until you can really start to kind of go running on your own.
So can you share with us what your sort of routine is per day?
Yeah, my ideal routine, 3:26, my alarm clock goes off, and by 4 a.m., I'm out the door to the gym most days, and I can't say all days. But if not, then I get ready, and by 5 o'clock, I'm at the office. From 5 to 9 a.m., I can accomplish my internal work that sometimes outbeats the performance of my entire day. And then once 9 o'clock hits, I'm doing more internal team meetings where I'm getting connected with all my team members that are all over the world. And then from there, around at 12 o'clock at that lunch hour is where we flip over to some more external meetings, sales calls, client follow throughs. And then towards the evening, I usually take a couple hours to kind of, social life and go out maybe for a nice dinner and come back home and kind of get the routine back on point Monday to Friday.
So that's why what you mean by routine, like you literally have the same routine every day, and that's why you've kind of like settled into it, right?
Exactly. Like the framework of it is consistent throughout the week. The only difference is I get creative and I create different themes throughout the day. So like Mondays are super organizational day where I'm doing a lot of my back end and focusing my days towards that. Whereas in Tuesdays, they're more sales focused. That now it changes the way that I'm dressing, the way that I'm acting, the way that I'm going out there and, getting into that attitude of following up and connecting with people. Wednesdays is more social media. So now we're doing a lot of content creation and that gives me my balance throughout the week, but it also keeps the framework consistent. So my body knows kind of what it needs to be doing.
Right on. So now, where did you learn all this stuff? Like, who was your coach?
That's good. That's a great question. I've been coached by some of the best in the world. I think number one would be Richard Dolan. And Richard Dolan, he's a guy out of Toronto, and he's also a performance advisor to the LA Lakers, Mike Tyson, Steve Aoki, and some really big players. And he's been my coach for about 8 years, but he was really the first person that taught me that, the three keepers: judgment, ego, and fear. And these are gatekeepers of our brain and how we really understand the judgment of others, the ego within ourselves, and the fear of the unknown. And those were three massive mental blocks that I had to overcome at a quick, young age that really propelled me into the future. Another one of my coaches, Dr. Rob Kelly, he's one of the top neurologists out in Texas there. And he was able to really change the thought patterns of my brain and the way that I actually speak to myself. Some of the internal traumas that I've experienced as a young kid that I didn't realize was even there. I was able to actually open that up through, conscious and subconscious wiring and allowed me to really break free. So some of the coaches and mentors have made such a big impact on mostly the brain that's given me now more understanding of strategies and neuro-performance that now I can apply to like my professional life and my personal life and even my financial life.
It's amazing because I don't think a lot of people have sort of figured out that your brain really is very similar to a muscle. You can work out and get more performance out of your body. But for some reason, we don't make that connection that you can work out your brain and get more out of your brain too, right?
Exactly, because it's not really taught. The only thing you can really do is, you can go to a psychology class, and I get that, but nobody's actually sitting there working with you on those problems, on the negative emotions. When I talk about emotions, I talk about out of 7 common emotions, 6 are negative. Joy is the only positive emotion humans feel to a generic level. And when you have 6 other ones against you at all times, you're going to go through some shit, but nobody really wants to talk about that kind of stuff because it is internal and it's embarrassing. And again, that judgment and that ego and that fear comes out. So once we can start overcoming that and actually having these courageous conversations, it starts allowing us to actually break free and really take our potential to the level it should be.
Wow. Yeah. I hope, and I love that you're working with the new generation, because that's exactly where we need to be focused, right? So like, what is it that, like, how did you find these coaches? Like, how is your past so different where you found all these coaches nice and young in your journey?
Yeah, it was, just opportunities because I was so immersed into personal development, attending seminars, webinars, everything I can get my hands on. I would rack myself into credit card debt just to attend some of these conferences. And even Richard, I went to a massive real estate. Real estate is actually my background. So I always talk about, there's an engine and there's a passion, right? The engine is commercial real estate. I'm a commercial developer and investor. So I've been doing that for about 8 years, building buildings. And that's what allows me to live kind of the lifestyle. But my passion has always been coaching and education, hence why NextGen Wealthy was born. Nice. But when I was back in real estate games, I was at these conferences networking and I was a part of this one and I saw this man on stage and I just thought, and at that time I was the most fearful of public speaking, right? And I would sit at the back of the room. I wouldn't network with nobody. I would just listen, write notes. And as soon as they would say it's done, I would run out of the room. And I was sitting there one day and I saw him on stage and just the way that he was speaking, the way he was walking, the energy that he had in the room. I told myself that day, I said, I want to be able to speak on a stage like that one day. And I made that quest, and that actually ended up getting me closer to him. And then, again, connection through conversation. And 8 years later, now he's still my coach, and we're doing some amazing businesses together.
Wow, that's amazing. Yeah, I'm the same way. I was going to trade shows and seminars, just trying to meet people, and it's inspirational when you see someone up on the stage doing those kinds of things. And you're like, wow, I'd like to do that too, right? And the other cool thing about it is that you like somehow he ended up being your like, how approachable was he when you went to approach him? Like, how did you get into his circle?
Like, again, it was just showing up. And Grant Cardone talks about this. Another one of our coaches and real idols is Grant Cardone, and he always talks about the number one rule to success is just showing up. It's 80% of the battle, if you really think about it, in anything we do in life, right? If you just show up, you're just so much more likely to attract and to actually get what you want. And I know it seems like a simple principle, but I just kept showing up. I kept showing up to the conferences. He kept seeing my face, and eventually the conversation started taking place. And then he kind of looked at me and said, like, I see something in you, and I want to be able to help you. Very similar to now, a year ago, what I did with my young guy, where I just, had a 20-30 minute conversation with him after a conference on the last day. And all of a sudden I was like, you know what? I see something in you that I've never seen in anybody else, and I want to take you under my wing. And now a year later, we're traveling together, and he's helping me build the business now. It's incredible to see that. So I really think it's just, again, going back to the communicating part, really understanding how to use language the right way to connect with people with the right intention.
Love it. Well, I want to get to your guest solo. So tell me what's exciting in your business then.
What's exciting in the business right now is we are getting ready to launch the NextGen Academy officially. So in 2023, it will be released, and it's for young people that really want to aspire to be the best communicators, understanding communication and interpersonal skills with a foundation of business, finance, and real estate. And I've kind of come up with this core curriculum and designed it in such a way that's very interactive. It's very new school, but with still old school principles. And it's going to be available to the market. And I'm very, very excited to get ready to launch for that. So I appreciate you asking for that.
Well, that's awesome. So then who would be the ideal person that you're looking for?
People that really just want to hone in on learning their purpose, passion, and being able to understand how to articulate their language, and then get into one of the industries, starting a home-based business, like something that you always talk about. And I think that is the core principle of learning what is actually going to get you there. Sometimes it's not all the fanciness, like we talked about, the websites and the social media presence. Sometimes it's simple as just having an offer and taking it to market and making some money. So teaching youth that are wanting to think of creative types of education that's not necessarily just in the traditional way are the ones that we're looking for, and the ones that are really willing to put in the hard work and dedication.
Right. So then now, how does this academy work? Is this sort of like a one-on-one thing, or is it like, how do people get their information?
Absolutely. So the best way to get the information would be to go to jdhahan.com. That kind of gives you more profiling on exactly who I am and everything that we got going on in the NextGen organization. And with the academy now, it's going to be interactive, where there will be live group calls. There'll be individual assignments, as well as, courses that they'll work through themselves as well too, with our accountability software that now holds accountability through text messages.
Really? That's an interesting way to do it. Good job. Using the new technology. That's awesome. And so now they go to the website to find out more. They're going to book a call with you. And then what's the next step after that?
We just go through a basic application process, finalize paperwork, and then we get them set up for the new year. And right now we still have our live calls open for the rest of this year. So it's a chance for them to kind of get to know me and get to know the rest of the team, and really start to immerse themselves in a positive community that's like-minded, that's really wanting just entrepreneurial growth.
And so are you saying that they would be able to communicate with each other as well?
Absolutely.
That's
We encourage
awesome.
communication. That's why we're really connecting. And some of my clients now, which my clients for coaching is a little bit different, because it is entrepreneurs and executives that are wanting to take Neuro-Performance strategies, as I've talked about earlier, and really level up their own businesses. So I have them as my clients, and then I have my young guys as my students. And what I'm now also doing is getting my clients, because they're starting to see the movement that I'm doing, and they're starting to come on board and saying, well, we can kind of give some mentorship to these young people as well too. So it's kind of interesting how we're trying to basically bridging generations together now in a very positive way.
I love it. And you know what? I mean, you learn a lot from teaching as well. So I bet you this is a very mutually beneficial program that you got going on.
Absolutely. Always. And as I said earlier, every human being is a teacher if asked the right questions. So even right now, how much interaction we're doing here and learning about one another and being able to, add that value to your audiences that are watching this. So again, I appreciate this.
Love it. Well, thank you so much for rocking out with me today, Jay. This has been a lot of fun.
All right, brother. Thank you so much. Take care.
Cool. To the listeners, make sure you subscribe, rate, and comment. We'll see you next time on the Work at Home Rockstar podcast.